Oh, there you go. Cool. Yeah. So that way, because now I'll record the screen and then that way I can send all of it to you. So you can.
I appreciate that. That's really helpful, man. That's really awesome that you do that.
We're going to start doing a live like Q&A here soon on the channel. So that way, like people that have, you know, questions and information and stuff they want, it's a little easier. They can just tune in, you know, once a week and see kind of like what's going on. So,
I mean, that would be awesome. I mean, I'm sure you're familiar with like mainstream shops. It's like kind of a dog eat dog world, you know. No one really likes to share anything, or you know, if they find a trick of the trade, like, and I get it, everyone's got to make money, but yeah. I was actually very surprised on how helpful you're willing to be, which I greatly appreciate.
Well, that was the thing. Like, when I was starting this, nobody had answers. Nobody wanted to let that stuff go. So, like, I had no idea where to start. So, I mean, in every state and area is different, but I mean, you're pretty close to me, so it's, you know, you'd be relatively the same way.
Yeah, that's what I liked about it, because I'm sure a lot of the hurdles and whatnot that I will go through, you either have gone through or will share the same struggles as well. You know, like talking to someone from New York would be helpful, but not in every area, you know? Yeah,
not every aspect of it is the same. Right. I keep dropping my phone. So I think like I said, the main reason why I do it is, like, especially the business side and the tax side, nobody had answers and nobody was willing to share it. And I didn't know what it was going to cost. That was the biggest problem. Like, what's this thing? What's it going to cost me to do this? And can I afford to do it? So.
And that's why I wanted to start small. Like, I got a real cheap trailer. You know, it's definitely going to have to upgrade if I get busy. But I'm like, I already have, you know, my mobile lift business and a rental car business. So I'm trying to keep it small scale, like you said, until I actually realize the full size scale it's going to be.
Yeah,
you know?
But say the company name of your lift so that they can hear it.
Oh, it's Mobile Auto Lift.
Mobile Auto Lift.
Yep, I have Facebook, Instagram. I'm on TikTok, not too much. I actually don't really know how to use it. So.
Yeah, well, hey, it might be banned here in a couple of weeks. A week, so who knows?
Yeah.
But anyway, you guys, followers, if you're watching this, it's Chris, right?
Yep,
Chris,
the owner of Mobile Auto Lift.
Mobile Auto Lift in Central Florida. So Nick, Mobile Automotive Repair, he's in your area. He has a trailer that literally has a full-size automotive lift on the trailer that sits down on the ground, full level, and he will rent it out to you for the day. Right? For the day or hour or something?
The minimum's a day, just because it's too much, you know, to move around, get a piece of equipment.
Yeah.
But minimum's a day. It's $150. I usually do 24 hours because I know what it's like to work on cars. Not everything goes to plan.
Yeah.
So you don't have to worry about finishing up by 5 p.m., you know. So
my
one-day rental is usually 24 hours.
Cool. All right, so Q&A, man. What you got? Fire away.
Well, I guess a couple of questions I have, and I guess I'm losing by leaving a dealership, for example, or even a large-scale shop. I'm going to be losing some resources. One of the resources is having parts on hand. Like, I just go to the parts department, boom. So my question was, do you primarily source your parts from local auto parts stores? Do you have websites? And also the issue would be we're mobile, so you can't have an entire warehouse of parts.
Yeah.
So what's the best way you found to source
It's so for how busy I am now, I pick up all my stuff on Monday that I need for the week, and I have it ready because I know where I'm going to be every day of the week. So since I do 30 to 40 cars a week, I build that schedule every Friday, and I know where I'm going. And I pre-order everything on Friday afternoon, so that way... Hey guys, sorry for interrupting your video, but I've recently had a lot of people reach out asking a lot of questions. I recently, this past weekend, did a hour-and-a-half long call with a gentleman in Reno, Nevada. I'm going to put that video up soon, but I think it's going to be better if we start maybe doing some live streams. So if you would like to see me do some live streams, what day of the week, what time of the day, and how frequently? Once a week, once every 2 weeks, once a month? Looking for your feedback on this. So what would you guys like to see? What do you want to talk about? Leave those comments and everything down below and what you think we should do, and we'll start getting some live streams going if that's what you guys want to see. I appreciate you. Enjoy the rest of the video. Monday I can go to, AutoZone, Advance, O'Reilly's, Parts House, whatever I got to do, pick everything up,
Right.
and it's with me for the week. Now, if it's during the week or you're a little slower and you've only got 2 or 3 jobs on the day, you would just source it from the closest place possible and, just go pick it up and be ready to go. So it's ever going to evolve. No matter what you do, it's going to grow, and you will evolve on what works best for you. This works for me. And over the years, I've kept more and more stuff. So like, I buy oil in 6-gallon boxes. I pick up the filter if I need to do the oil change. We've been toying with the idea of stocking filters this year. I don't know if I'm going to do it because I just don't know. I don't sell that many oil changes. But I buy the oil in the bulk because it's cheaper per quart at that range.
Absolutely.
And to buy a 55-gallon drum, now I got to store it at my house, and then I got to pump it out when I need it, and I don't have a place to do that, and it seems to be more of a hassle. And I don't want to spend, $600 or $1,000 on a drum of oil that I just don't use that much.
Yeah, drum of oil.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what I do with parts. I pre-order for my entire week. And if I run out and I go out and the part's wrong or something, most of the time it's not, because if you go back a couple of days on YouTube, or even earlier last year, I don't know if I showed it in detail, and maybe I'll make a video about that with how I make estimates on TechMetric. I use Parts Tech, and Parts Tech is set up with my home stores for all 4 of my locations. So AutoZone, O'Reilly's, Advance, and Napa, I have home stores. So if I need the part, and it'll tell me if they have it in stock. And when I hit order, it'll be sitting on the counter waiting for me to come and pick it up. If they have to get it in from another store, it tells me that it's at another store. So if I need it immediately, I know not to order from them. I'll order it from where I need to make sure I get it. Or
it might be faster. You might have to drive a little bit longer, but it's still faster just to go there and get it versus ordering it to your home store.
Well, I always go to my home store because they're closest to my house, and that's what I pick up on Monday mornings. If I just have a weird one, like I recently posted a video of the F-150 that I broke a water outlet. I had to drive to the hub store for O'Reilly's for that, which was like 40 minutes away, but I needed it for the next morning to come back and fix that job. So I had to go do that because I screwed up. But yeah, normally it's fine just doing it that way.
Okay, absolutely. I'm just used to walking up to a window and grabbing it, so I'm trying to figure out my...
Yeah, 16... You're good, man. I did it for 16 years in the shops that did my dealer spill in the early 2000s, and that was convenient. My first ever job was Bell South before it was AT&T, and I worked we were a subcontractor, and I had 2 bays, my own parts room, my own office, everything. And that was so nice. And then I went to the dealer. That was nice. And then independent world, you're like, oh shit, I'm waiting on parts, waiting for the service writer to order parts. And it a little different, but this works out well because there's no waiting. I have it all with me.
Right, or at least you're in control of it. You're not necessarily waiting for someone else to order it.
I could leave and go get it.
Right, exactly. And then I guess that leads me to, you said you try to pre-order everything Friday or whatnot, or Monday. I can't remember what you said.
Friday,
but
yeah.
That leads me to, for the most part, do you primarily do appointments?
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't have walk-ins, but do you have, depending on your schedule, they call you today, or are you primarily appointment only?
I'm appointment only because the phone rings too much.
I would imagine, yeah.
In the beginning, it was, I took what I could, I put my name out there as hard as I could. I took every job, every crap job, everything to just show who I was, because nobody was doing what I'm doing. In my area, there was some mobile guys, but they were not doing it on the caliber that I'm doing it and that I wanted to show people. I wanted to bring that shop experience to your front door, but better. I wanted to stop the stigma of oh man, I went for an oil change and now I need $2,000 worth of stuff. I literally had 2 phone calls for that today, and they were so happy that I showed them that, like, listen, like, yeah, you could do some of these things as maintenance over time, but you're on a fixed income. You don't need to spend $2,600 on struts and all this other stuff. Like, you're okay. Your car's fine. So that was one of our big things, is we wanted to try to make it known that not all mechanics are thieves in this world, and we're out here to try to do better.
There's a stigma, especially in the automotive industry, and I've only been in the industry, maybe almost 10 years, and obviously that's been the stigma for,
ever
decades.
Yeah,
now.
Forever.
That's my biggest thing too about my own company. And I'm not going to say anything bad about my dealership, but most dealers are the same. It's a sales world. You show up for an oil change, 90 to 30K, 60K, this. And my thing is, this is what I tell people with side work right now. Obviously, I'm not a company yet, but it's like, I just tell you what's wrong with your car.
Yep.
I'm not trying to upsell you. Of course, I'll tell you services, but I'm just here to tell you what's wrong with your car. If you don't like it, that's fine. If you don't want to buy it, that's fine. I'm not trying to pull money out of your pocket for no reason.
Yeah.
So I like that you had that same mentality.
So, like, ever since I started, I think once or twice I have actually done a full inspection on a car because the customer asked me. Every job, every dollar that we've made has been strictly because the customer had a problem and this is what they needed looked at. Because there's no, I'm not doing, like I said, I don't advertise for oil changes. I don't advertise in general, but I don't advertise for oil changes. We were thinking about doing that this year because there is a good amount of money left on the table, but there's no point. I'm so busy with doing repairs and diagnostic work and air conditioning work in the summertime that I don't need to chase those oil changes to get them in the door to feed technicians the way the shops do. I can
exactly what oil changes do for big shops. You do not make money on oil changes. Obviously,
no. And my oil changes, I make a couple bucks on, but I make it's all a percentage game. So like you were mentioning, I think you have a couple questions about that, and we'll touch on that in a bit. But it's all how you do it, and like I said, everything. I think so. Last year, the last video I put, our revenue was 180,000.
Right. By the way, it was incredibly impressive. I was blown away when you.
And that was low from the year before.
Really?
The year before was a little over 203. The years before that were much lower because I was not doing it on the scale I am doing it now, or then, and I was still running a lawn service at the time. I think I sold my lawn service in like 2021. I think I sold it. I could be wrong on the month that I sold it. I think it was like May or something. So like a year and a half, I was cutting grass and I was running this company. And I was getting burned out, and I had to choose. So I sold the lawn service. The day I put the trailer into service, I didn't even, I shouldn't have been doing it because it just took off from that day forward. So, but yeah, so all of the revenue we do is not based on inspections. We don't do any inspections. I should, but I don't have the time for it. I need.
No, and you're not wrong. I mean, and I'm actually impressed that most of your revenue comes from showing up and repairing what the customer asked you to do.
All of it.
It makes me feel better because I don't like, that stigma. And also, I'm not a salesman. I'm a mechanic. Like, yes, I can diagnose your car and let you know what's wrong, but I'm not trying to pitch sales all day and knock on doors all day, which I'm glad that's the majority of your revenue is just
all of it. Yeah. Every ounce of it is from that. And it's huge. I probably get 15 to 20 calls a week of jobs I don't get because it's either someone looking for something super, super cheap or they don't want to pay diagnostic fees and stuff like that. And that's fine. They can go to the guy that, doesn't have the type of company I have, and that's okay. Everybody, there's a level for everybody. And I'm trying to take every level of it. So the main reason why we did a lot lower numbers last year was, I was saying no to the people that had their own parts, or no to more of those people, and trying to not do them because, so like, for instance, today, I had quite a few jobs on the list for today. 3 of them turned out to not be jobs because the one guy said, hey, I need a left-hand side axle. He needed a right-hand side. So I went out there for no reason. And now I got to go back Thursday instead. The first job, he said he smells gas, and he thought he saw gas coming off of the gas tank that I just put in. It's not. It was Vaseline from the O-ring on there that the fill tube goes in from.
Sure.
So that's not it. But that turned into now I have to go diagnose the car and something else. So that's frustrating. So I took a day where I was supposed to make $1,000, and I think I did $300. So now it gets moved to another day, and those cars will still get fixed, but the expectation gets screwed. Some days you work out really, really well. Other days it doesn't work out so well. So, I mean, to each their own.
So that's actually a question I forgot to write down. But it's a question that I have, and I'm toying with myself. At my current job, especially being a dealer, it's a manufacturer, so we don't know a lot of outside parts. But one of the main reasons we don't is because they often bring the wrong parts.
Yeah.
So, and so then, being a big name brand, like they probably wouldn't really, we'll just, when you bring the right parts, we'll redo it. But a small company, you almost have to charge them twice in a way, or you lose money, So what's I was going to ask you what your policy was to that, but you already kind of said, what did you do when you did customer supplied parts and they had the wrong part?
Typically they'll get charged a trip charge, which is $60.
A trip charge?
So yeah, I'll charge them a trip charge of $60 if I go out, the parts they have are wrong. Now I tell them that on the phone. Do I do it? Not usually. I usually end up being the biggest softie in the world when I go out there, because most of the time, if I don't charge them that, I can usually convince them and say, listen, we can go get the part for you. This is what your cost will be. Just return that. You'll get your money back. Now you get warranty. You don't have to worry about it. It's going to be right. And we're going to take care of everything for you, so you don't have to worry about anything. And that's usually where the job goes to. Or we'll schedule them for the next week, and we'll come back out and we'll do the job. And we'll still make the money. So do I want to nickel and dime people? No. Do I play every job as a case-by-case basis? Yeah. If I get there and I feel like maybe they're not going to call me back, I'll charge them to show up, because that's my time, that's my gas, that's everything. But or sometimes I'll say, listen, you're going to pay $60 today. If you decide to get the right part and you want to call us back, I'll give you a little bit of a discount, for coming back twice. I'll try to help you out, but it's my time, and this is the risk you play by playing that game when you want to try to save a couple of bucks and buy your own stuff.
And like with us, it's the same thing, like if the parts department gets me the wrong part, it's not the customer's fault. We're jumping through hoops to get you the right part.
Yeah.
And I did that too. Now I know I'm jumping around, but you're starting the questions I had. So you say trip charge. I was going to ask you, do you charge a mileage fee? Is it based on location? Is it flat rate?
So I don't, in reality, no, I don't charge someone individually just for like going to their home. I have a labor rate. My labor rate is based on my expenses. My expenses are very, very high. My expenses are $9,300 a month.
Right.
I choose to have that because I have enough of a company that I can do that. Now,
Absolutely.
I don't know how to come up with a labor rate. I don't know what the right thing is. So I just did some searching on Google and stuff like that. And I just took the amount that I make, or that I need to have. So I'm just going to call it 9,300. And I'm going to divide that by 4, which is about 4 weeks in a month. It's 4.3, but I'll do that and then divide it by 5, which is 465, and divide it by 8. That's $58 an hour I have to clear in order to pay $9,300. So now I've got a tech, and that includes paying me my payroll. So I charge $105 an hour. Is it right? I don't know. I feel it's okay because if I minus that off, that leaves about $47 for the company to pay a secretary for that hour to do the job of ordering parts, which is still me. I don't give a separate paycheck for that, but eventually it'll be my wife that does it. But that's how a shop works. And then when you sell a part, you have a markup. And so in reality, I have a truck payment, I've got gas, I've got vehicle insurance and all that stuff, which is in that 9,300. So your typical job, which is and this is where TechMetric comes into play, I build a ticket and I make sure that ticket has a gross profit of 50 to 60%.
Okay.
Because that 50 to 60% with labor and parts and everything all included is what the company uses to pay those bills. So if I was charging someone a separate fee just to drive to them, people would start getting pissed off and start getting annoyed. So when I do it the way I do it exactly like the shops do. Granted, the shops aren't going anywhere, but their costs are a lot higher than mine.
Right.
So it kind of just equals out in reality. So no, I don't. I only charge double, trip like that if the customer's supplying their own thing, because I'm not making a profit on the part. So I need to cover my gas somehow. I'm only covering the technician's time on the labor. So if I go out there for no reason, they're going to typically get double charged. But I also build my schedule in such a way that I don't have to stress it too much. I build my schedule in neighborhoods. So like today, I was in Beverly Hills, Citrus Springs, and Denellen, which are all right next to each other. So I drove out to one job, and then it was 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 10 minutes to the next job, and I was right in a row. And I ordered all those parts I needed for today at the auto parts store that was right near it. So I picked all that stuff up and did my day. Granted, the day, like I said, sucked, but still, I was no more than 10 minutes in between jobs. So that way my drive time is extremely minimal, and therefore I don't have to add tons of fees to pay for the customers to pay, and I can keep my costs down.
And I think that's fair. And plus, if you end up getting one of those jobs or a flop, you're still not too far from your other jobs.
Yeah, I'm literally right around the corner. There's a guy here that he's got a pickup truck. He ain't got much, not much tools, like a handful of tools and stuff. And he tells people he charges $120 to come out to their house. He charges them like $35 to go pick up parts. And I'm like, and then the job doesn't get done right. And then I get there and they're like, why are you so much cheaper? I go, what do you mean? And they tell me what they paid for a wrong job. And I'm like,
right.
Like, I don't know what to tell you, but this is the right way to do it. I'm sorry you paid that, but now you understand the difference of why, when you called us the first time, why we charge a diagnostic fee.
Yep. And I'm familiar with that. I don't even think he's a business, but I see him on Facebook all the time. He's like, $50 minimum for me to show up. And I'm like, but what is that? What does that include? What are you talking about? Like, mileage, all that, every company has their expenses, but like, why are you just throwing these numbers out there? Plus, I don't want to charge Miss Susie, who lives down the street, the same I charge the guy in Tampa when I got to drive an hour to get there. So, and that's what I'm toying with. But I do like how you kind of incorporated it.
Yeah, I keep everything combined. It's kind of like shop supplies. So think of it that way. Like, shop supplies are rags, brake clean, hand cleaner, brooms that have to be, mop heads that have to be fixed, all kinds of stuff like that, in a shop they have. I have most of it. I don't have mops, but I have fluids that I have to top off with. We're not going to sit there and be like, 5 rags, 2 cans of brake clean. We don't do that. So it's the same with the gas for me. I'm not going to charge it independently. It's all covered in a professional way to make it known. And most, like I said, if you look at most shops do the same gross profit, 50, 60%. There are some shops that go a lot lower that kind of just opened up in my area. I guarantee they're not going to be open very long if that's the gross profit they're doing, because unless they're sitting on bazillions of dollars and they can eat that, I don't know. But again, every shop's different. I don't know their costs. I don't know their revenue. I don't know what it takes for them to run it. But if you've got 6 bays and you've got 4 technicians, there's a lot of overhead there. So, gross profit needs to be there, because at the end of the day, it's the net. So like that other video I just put out, my net income on last year, even though it was low with all of my expenses and all the stupid stuff I decided to buy, we're still sitting at a 10% net profit on the company.
Yeah.
$1 million company still sits at 5%, you know,
Right.
So I think our numbers in general for a one-man show that doesn't have a 6 or 7 bay shop and 1 million techs and service riders and drivers and stuff, we're doing pretty damn good.
I was honestly thoroughly impressed. Like, and I watched the whole video. We were actually driving to Bushnell to do something with my fiance, and I was just like listening, and I was like, "Do you hear this?" And she's like, "What?" And she gets not annoyed, but she hears it all day. I just run these numbers past her.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Are you hearing this?" So you mentioned markup earlier.
Yeah.
I come from obviously dealer. We're talking 200% markup, which I think is, in my opinion, astronomical. But I understand markup. You do have to make money. Markup can help pay to go get parts. How do you feel about markup? If you don't mind sharing,
So,
what do you do with markup?
well, that's part of, like I was saying before. So after my labor rate, all parts we buy are marked up. I use a parts matrix. I can tell you the hardest part when it comes to being out here like this or an independent shop outside of a dealer is if the customer is a shopper, they're going to question you.
Right.
And they can question you till you're blue in the face. It's fine. But I use a couple of different scenarios. You know, when you go to get a burger at McDonald's, do you bring your own beef? No. You don't bring your own French fries for them to cook. So no, you're technically not going to start bringing your own parts for me to fix your car. You could, it's fine, but you're not going to get warranty. You're not going to get all the other stuff. You can handle all that your own.
There's going to be fees, right?
Yeah, so that's where the markup in reality comes in. But I buy commercial pricing, and I have my sales use tax, so I buy tax-free. But now I use a judgment. So TechMetric, there's not one set percentage. So to go back to your main question, it's all done on a percentage base. So like if I go into I know you can't see it right now, but
Right.
I don't know if I ever showed this before, and I'll show it one day, markups. So I use a parts matrix, right? So a part that's a $0 to $2 is a 275% markup, depending on the price. And then $2.01 to $5 goes up. It's a 250%. And so on and so on. So like if you look at your average part, which is like $50 to $200, that's your average part every day. That goes anywhere between 125 to 70% of a markup depending on the price of the part. So it's a multiplier. So like if you were to take $100 part, you're going to times $100 by 2.25, and that's the price it's going to put on the system. Sometimes that's a little bit too much, and I do that on an evaluation basis. I look at my ticket every time I make an estimate. Am I within my margin? Because sometimes you put these on there when you have a lot of labor, and the part is a moderate part. The gross profit's too high, so I'll cut the price of the part and bring it down to a manageable amount that is fair for the customer and fair for us. But I also started recently because, like I said, the auto parts stores don't give a rip about us. They care about the DIY. So the issue is sometimes a customer can go in the store and buy a part for very close to what my commercial cost is.
Right.
So what I'll typically do is I'll call the store and say, listen, DIY is this price, $200, commercials $180. You got to do something here. I got to sell a job. And they'll cut the price for me. And they cut it pretty good. And they'll get me a good margin. And then instead of selling it for $200 what the customer could buy it for, I'll do $240 or $250, right? That's not really what it is, but to give you an idea. Because the customer looks at it that way if they're a shopper and they're like, oh, I could buy it for $200 and you're selling it to me for $250. You're covering the labor on the warranty for a year. You're going and picking it up. I don't have to do a thing. I could stay fiddling my thumbs on my recliner. I'm good with that. And that's the whole point, is we're offering a unique service to people that they need to be willing to pay for. If you look at like DoorDash or Grubhub, If you look at the cost of what a damn sandwich is from Jersey Mike's on the website versus the cost of the sandwich on the site, on Grubhub or something, DoorDash, it's $2 or $3 more for the same sandwich. Why? Because they want that. And there's fees, and there's delivery charges, and there's this. So, I mean, like I said, nobody was doing what I was doing, and now that I am, so many people are trying to do it also. And there's a million more mobile guys out here, especially in my area, than there was, 3 or 4 years ago when I first started. There was nobody. And I started at the right time and built the trailer at the right time.
And I try to be respectful. Definitely don't want to hang on your coattails at all. That's why I was approaching you the way I did, and because I understand, I get the same thing with my mobile auto lift. I'm the only one in the country besides the manufacturer, and I get people all the time, what's this cost? What's this cost? Now, I'm more than happy to share, but I'm also like, hey man, I did work to get here. Make sure you have your own, your own idea in your own company. But
yeah, well, I've toyed with the idea. I've seen sometimes I let it get to me. I see some of these TikTokers out there, right, and they're running around with a handful of tools, and they've got, millions of followers and stuff, and they're good on camera. I'm not good on camera. I'm a freaking mechanic. I'm not a TikToker. Yeah. And it pisses me off sometimes. They're like, oh, you're such a great mechanic. And, all right, whatever. But it's not about the mechanic side of it. It's about the opportunity side. Nobody is showing how to do it, and that's what I wanted to make my channel about, was to help people do it. So I was, like I said, I'm starting to do some live streams here soon on YouTube, and eventually help people like yourself start their own company. So, I want to be able to put something down on paper that I can give them and say, hey, this is how we start. This is what you do. And not something that I'm charging for, just something to help the community, because the shops have gotten horrendous, and there's still really, really good shops out there, but the world is in a different place than it was 20 years ago when I first started this business.
I mean, it's in a different place, since 4 or 5 years. In 20 years, absolutely. I mean, my shop right now, our hourly rate's $200 an hour.
Yeah.
You come in there for 3 hours of diagnosis, you're talking $600, and I feel horrible as a technician, but I mean, I don't make the prices where I'm at and all that.
Yeah.
I also have to get paid, but I mean, we're talking, sometimes that's kind of where I started a few months ago when I really started putting this idea together. I did a water pump on I think it was a Silverado. It was a super easy water pump. I think the book said 1.7. I factored it out. I think they walked out the door. It was $800 and something at the shop. But I'm like, man, even myself charging an adequate amount, it was $300 if I would have done it myself. And I'm like, man, I don't know. I know dealerships are expensive. They have to be. They always have been. But I'm trying to do my own thing and make it more fair and more. Yeah. I guess.
And you'll start out probably way too low, and eventually you'll start raising it and figure it out once you know your costs, and if it's something you're going to do. Like I said, recently, somebody had made a comment about the LLC stuff, which I totally agree with you on the LLC stuff, but I don't agree with it in the beginning. If you don't have $1 million in the bank, and you don't have a boat, and you don't have 6 houses, you don't have anything, you don't have any assets. So to turn into an LLC immediately, in my eyes, is not worth it, because a lot of people don't realize the amount of fees and costs and legal things you have to do to be an S Corp versus a sole proprietor. A sole proprietor is just the state thinks knows you're out there making $1 and you got to pay tax on it. Do you pay more tax? Yeah, you do. Yep. But you pay a different tax. It's, that's what an accountant is for. And every accountant I've ever spoken to here in Florida has said, are you grossing over $100,000? No. Yep. Then don't do it. Okay. Are you grossing over $100,000 now? Yeah. Double that. Yep. You need to be an LLC, and you need to go buy something because you didn't pay enough tax last year. So in 2023, I bought my truck in November because I was going to owe a decent amount of money in tax. and we knew we needed a truck, but I was trying to wait a little while longer so I could save some more money to put down. But I couldn't do that because if the money that I wanted to put down on the truck, I would have just gave it to the IRS. So,
Yep.
I mean,
and I'm definitely familiar with a lot of that. I have my rental car service, and it's just on a platform called Turo. I'm not shouting them out, but either way. But that is sole proprietor. I run that sole proprietor. Well,
Yeah.
Autolift is LLC, but I'm a C corp because I don't do over 50,000 a year.
Yeah.
And that's what my account recommended. He goes, as soon as you start breaking 50, move to S corp. Right now I'm a C corp. And so, yeah, I'm familiar with that and the write-offs and whatnot.
Yeah, and that's a little bit of a liability with that lift thing. Anybody could drop a car and crush themselves.
Yep, and of course the insurance, which kind of brings me into another question with the insurance, only because we just talked about it. I have my insurance, my mobile auto lift company. It's a little bit different. That's liability. It's more of a renter's insurance type thing and operation of equipment. I'm guessing you have something more on the side of just liability.
Yeah, so
Don't mind me asking.
I have pretty much liability. I have a hybrid style insurance.
Okay.
I guess you could call it, and it's from auto owners, which are here in our area.
Okay.
The main company, but it's through a broker. They did the legwork for me and found a company that somebody was willing to do the underwriting to create it for me. Because
Yes.
again, I've got a lot of guys. I just did a phone call on Sunday with a guy in Reno, Nevada, asking the same thing. Had questions, and we recorded. He's having problems with the insurance. I've had people on TikTok. I don't know if it was you, but I've had other people on TikTok asking me the same thing. Like, I can't figure out the insurance. I got a box truck, but they can't insure it, and blah blah blah. I have multiple different stages, so
Sure.
the liability is the liability plus kind of like a hybrid of garage keepers in a way. Garage keepers protects the garage and things like that. And there's more to it that I just don't know because I don't have that. But it covers me to drive people's car. It covers me if I crush myself with the car, if I catch it on fire, get into an accident, all that stuff. But then my trailer is separate. My trailer and my truck are two separate policies by themselves. And then everything inside the trailer is what's called an inland marine policy. And all of that stuff is protected against theft and fire and accidents and everything else. So I have quite a bit of different things that, again, nobody told me about. And I'm like, damn, this is going to get really expensive really fast.
Right.
Because I wanted always to have the best of everything to make sure that I wasn't going to have a problem later on down the road.
Protected,
Yeah. And I needed everything to be streamlined. I do everything like my front end software and stuff like that. The reason why I pay as much as I pay is I wanted it to be 100% streamlined and I wanted it to be fast. I did it the first year on paper and everything else, and it was the most disorganized company in the world. My handwriting sucks and I couldn't keep track. This is I'm looking at all my stuff and it's all digital in front of me, so I don't have any problems.
Yeah, right. Interesting. If I swipe up, I shouldn't hurt the screen, right? Oh, I actually wrote some questions down. If I can find them. If you don't mind, give me one.
Yeah, you're good.
So, as far as, and I'm sure you use quite a few, your software, if you will. I'm used to, for example, we have a couple different books we use for labor and for repair manuals. I'm big on like schematics and electrical repair and diagnostics and different things. So I wouldn't say I'm spoiled. I'm just used to having the specific schematics per the RPO or whatnot. If I got to look up an ignition circuit or whatnot, do you use a certain software for that?
Yeah, all data.
You do use all data. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm familiar with all data.
Yeah.
I don't feel it's very user friendly, so
So,
but-
that's the thing. There's a divide in that world. You have all data users and Mitchell users,
we
or
actually have both.
Shopkey or whatever it's called. I used to have the same thing when I worked for GM back in the early 2000s. We had GM's website and
Correct.
TIS2 web and everything to do programming and all that stuff. But yeah, I use all data because I tried Mitchell. For me, navigation's hard for me. In all data, it's the thing I used most of my career, so I stick with it, and that's what I like to use.
With it.
Yeah, but that's what I have. I have All Data and I have Identifix.
Now, I'm familiar with Identifix a little bit. It's on one of my scanners that I have personally. Identifix it also gives.
You're breaking up. You're kind of frozen. Oh, your connection's unstable.
Come back now?
Almost. There you go. Connection was unstable for a second there.
Okay.
So, yeah, Identifix is, I don't know what you said, but Identifix is a forum-based program. So, shops all around, like if you just, have a unique code or anything, just even if it's something basic, it's going to pop up with all these links for other shops that have dealt with that same problem. What they did, it takes your diagnostics and kind of compresses it into check this, and this is where you need to go.
To almost like the manufacturer bulletins or TSBs, kind of where
all that's linked in there too. All the TSBs will be linked in it. All that stuff. Like I'll probably do a full in-depth screen record video on that one day too, to show everybody what All Data is versus Identifix and stuff like that. Because hey babe, it really depends. Like I don't use Identifix a lot. I use it when something's pissing me off or aggravating me, and I'm like, all right, I really got to get like a direction here. Let me go, like, especially if it's on like a Mercedes or an Audi or something I don't work on every single day. I'll go to that. But it also has all the wiring information. It uses motor labor guides. It uses Mitchell something else. So it's got a lot of information in there outside of the forum base. And now All Data and Mitchell, they use a forum base in a sense, meaning you can like type a code in and it'll give you stuff that other shops have typed in there, but it's not as good as Identifix.
I got you. Give me 1 second. I'm going to mute you real quick, okay?
Yeah.
You don't mind. All right, thanks.
Yeah. So.
I've never seen this from the bank statement. I've never seen it.
What is it? Oh, for the truck?
Bank statement. No, for our accounts.
Oh, yeah, I don't know why they're sending them now. But they are.
Haven't seen one of those in forever.
All right, I'm back. Sorry about that.
No, you're good, man.
Picking up the kiddos. Okay, so, all right, I definitely have to get more familiar with Identifix, but I like that it's more community-based. Now, I don't want to get in trouble. Have you had any issues with EPA, OSHA, anything like that, being on your own and being mobile?
So the guy asked me, the other guy the other day asked me about this also. It's kind of like a gray area. It's kind of like an area where they just turn their head, to be honest with you, because
I figured.
I called the city, I called EPA. They don't care. It's because I'm not traveling with an excessive amount of something that needs to be like hazardous waste or anything like that. And now maybe one day their laws will change and they'll come bothering me or something like that. But we do have to register with the Florida Department of Agriculture.
Okay.
That is who regulates the state of Florida with our estimates and our invoices and legality of that. So like you're not allowed to change, you're legally allowed to change an invoice up to like $100 without a customer signature, and the customer's not allowed to do anything about it. They have to pay it. I'll never do that, but it's a lot of that stuff. So like you have to send over your licensing, which is just your sales tax, and then your LLC form, and then you send them a copy of your estimate and your invoice form with your disclosures on the bottom, and that's it. And that's the only like big thing you need to do. But yeah, I called EPA, I called the county, I called everybody and told them exactly what I'm doing, and they said, nope, we don't care. My insurance company, when you were asking about the liability, that's the only one that cared about what we were doing. They made me have a full-size fire extinguisher that is marked off every year for an inspection, and the metal bin for dirty rags. They wanted that on the trailer for fire safety. But yet they don't care about where the oil is or where the brake clean is. You remember shops, they used to, in school, they used to tell us MSDS or whatever those forms were.
SDS, yeah.
Yeah. And they're like, you got to have a fire cabinet and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, they don't care when it comes to the shops or the mobile anymore.
And obviously, you're not hauling around 1,000 gallons of crude oil, but it's like same thing where we dump our oil. It has to be able to, if it breaks or pops open, it has to be able to catch like 30% of the capacity.
It's got to be on a spill pallet.
Yeah. And so I was like, I don't know if we have to have that on the trailer. Obviously, we're not going to be carrying hundreds of gallons of
they
crude
don't
oil,
care.
so.
I carry, at max, I'll have about 15 gallons of used oil. A DIY person can have that in their car. I lost my train of thought. Hey, stop. Your licking is so loud. Yeah, so it's just an oddball area. They just said there was nothing they wanted to regulate with us, and
I mean,
that's it.
I won't ask questions, you know what I mean? I'm not going to argue with it.
Yeah, exactly. In the beginning, I was super stressed. I was like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know if it's going to work. And then finally, I've just gotten to the point where if they want to tell me this or tell me that, okay, tell me where to sign up. What do I pay to be legal? What do you want me to do? And I'll fix it because I'm in it this deep.
With my other business, I had a bunch of questions because I was like, also, no one's ever done what I've done before. Yes, it's equipment rental, but like the underwriting for the insurance was difficult. And I got to the point where I'm like, you know what? When they show up and tell me I'm doing something wrong, then I'll fix it. Other than that, I'm just going to keep doing what I know I'm doing.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like obviously there's other people out there. Like I'm starting to see a lot of guys with really nice trailers that are doing tires. I've never seen anybody doing that before. And now I'm starting to see those guys, come out of the woodworks and stuff and do that. And that's really cool. But, so I'm curious what they would be having, as far as, insurances or things like that, or what they're dealing with on those systems or those types of businesses. But again, I don't see it being, I don't see it ever being a problem.
Sure. Yeah. I definitely agree with that. I'm trying to think. So, starting small, obviously, my idea is to have nothing necessarily financed as far as equipment goes. My biggest issue right off the bat is obviously we're in Florida. Use your AC, 11 and a half months out of the year. I do a lot of AC work, obviously AC certified, whatnot. But I do a lot of AC work. The problem is I'm at the mercy of the dealership's machines, and we're talking R134 machine, a good machine, $8,000 to 1234YF can go up from there. Do you have any recommendations as far as AC work or AC machines? I know residential have like the different bottles and whatnot, but
you have
a full size machine, don't you?
Yeah, I have a Robinair. I don't remember the number. Brand new. The basic one. That was only like $3,400.
Really?
Yeah, I got it from Advance. They had it sitting at one of the stores. I originally ordered it from AutoZone, and they couldn't get it. And then I just started searching around different locations, and I just happened upon a hub store of Advance here in my town, and they're like, yeah, we got one in the back. I was like, I'm on my way. And I bought it that day.
Is that the 134 or the 1234YF?
134.
Right.
The next machine I do, it will be a dual machine because I am starting to run into some of the 1, 2, 3, 4 stuff. I don't work on any of it. I have a set of gauges, but I can't properly work on it if I don't know how much refrigerant's in the system.
And I know a lot of people are like, oh, you got a vacuum pump here and that there. I'm like, listen, like I understand like residential, they have their gauges and they have their own vacuum pump and the recovery machine.
Yeah.
But I'm so, like you said, streamlined. The machine's a little bit more expensive, but it's all in one. And then, I deal with 134 or 1234YF as well, which is a mouthful to say every time.
Yeah.
But I've considered the dual machine, but
they're pretty expensive. Yeah.
They are.
I don't run into it enough that I warranted it. And even now, I still don't run into it enough that I'll change in the next, 2 years. Maybe in maybe about 5 or 10 years, then we'll start thinking about doing something like that. But at that point, it'll be so common that machine will probably come down in cost.
Absolutely. Yep. So my next question is, right now you're not seeing a lot of 123.4YF concerns.
In the summertime, I might see 2.
Right. So I don't have to necessarily jump on that machine quite yet.
Nah.
Do you have issues with your machine being a full-size roll-around machine in a trailer? Kind of like, I know it doesn't move, but...
Yeah, I was worried that the jarring of the tanks and everything else were going to give it a problem. So far, I have not had any issues. It works great. It's pretty tight and secure in there. The scales don't give me an issue. I do recalibrate it every once in a while, especially before summer. And then, especially if I hit a big bump or something, I'll recalibrate. Yeah, just to make sure we're charging correctly. Or if I do something and it charges and I'm like, well, that was not right, I'll recover it and then I'll redo it because I keep the
2 pounds, but it pulled out 5 pounds.
Yeah, exactly. So, it happens, but it's extremely rare when it happens, which I'm very surprised because I expected it to be a problem.
I'm like, do I need to suspend this thing so it can swing freely, or is it gonna rattle around?
Nah, it's pretty tight inside there, so it doesn't give any issues.
Good. What about and I'm big on cutting rotors only because everyone likes to replace them because they're easy. I didn't see a brake lathe. Do you simply replace rotors?
I just replace them or pad slap it.
Yeah. Okay.
If you go and look at it, you can make an educated decision and drive the vehicle. If the vehicle's not pulsating and you got a big, thick, heavy, nice rotor on there, and it's the first brake change on a car or the second one, and it's still under 100,000 miles, and there's no lip on it and there's no warpage on it, by law, by DOT and insurances, you don't have to replace it.
Right.
If a customer goes metal to metal, I ain't cutting it. I'm replacing it anyway. And, you could scuff it up and clean it and make it look a little nicer and get a good grip on it. But when have you ever done a pad slap versus cutting it and saw a difference? People will complain in the comments of this video all day long about it, but to each their own. There's no reason for it.
If the pulsation was there before, it's going to be there after. If it wasn't there before, it's probably not going to be there after. Then you run into the conversation of cheap pads, cheap rotors. I agree with replacing them. I agree with cutting them, whichever one's more feasible.
Yeah.
I have considered getting a brake lathe and having it on my trailer. I wasn't sure. Mostly because what I'm seeing, and the reason I say, the reason I say I'm more adamant about cutting them is because I see a lot of new technicians inexperienced, and they simply replace them because they don't know how to cut them.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where I'm like, no, man, don't replace rotors because you're inexperienced.
Yeah.
Replace them because they need to be replaced.
I also can't warrant the fact that I don't do enough brake jobs that warrants me buying a $2,500 brake lathe that takes up a ton of space in the car, or even a more expensive on-car brake lathe.
Well, absolutely, and that was my other thing is what is and it's going to be a learning curve, but what's my profit margin as far as buying a $2,000, $2,500 brake lathe? Am I doing 10 brake jobs a week, or am I doing 1 brake job a week?
Yeah, exactly. You could probably get it to the point where I'm pretty much doing in the summertime or even anytime. I mean, it's not that many, and like I said, it just doesn't. There's no reason to have all of that big equipment like that. My biggest thing that I find that I carry a lot of is little things, hoses, spare spark plugs, spare coils. Vacuum tees, vacuum caps, drain plugs, double over drain plugs, single over drain plugs, oddball stuff like that. So they're the bins that are in the back, like when I just did the trailer tour one.
I did see that video. You had light bulbs, you had a bunch of stuff back there.
Stuff like that you just need.
Right.
When it comes to big giant equipment like that, The only one that I say warrants that time is the AC machine because it makes you money.
Oh yeah, and that's right off the bat. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, AC machine
I can
is the
easily
first.
just sell it because I mean you think about the additional labor of cutting a rotor versus R&Ring a rotor, and most brake jobs in today's world are package deals. It's kind of like oil changes. You don't get book time on an oil change. You don't get book time on tire rotations or tire changes. You don't really get book time on real brake jobs. A real brake job is a lot higher than what most shops are going to pay for. Just here on this 2013 Hyundai Elantra, if I go to brakes and parts and labor, that's not it. Brake, where's brake pad? Disc brake system, brake pad, brake bag components, brake pads, R&R is 0.9. To R&R rotor each is 0.2. So now you're at 1.3. Well, you have to R&R it to resurface it. So now a resurface is 0.4 each. So that's another 0.8. Well, that's 2 hours on a brake job. I don't think most shops charge that. Most shops, I think back in the day, they used to charge 2 hours on a brake job if you were doing a resurface. And then maybe like 1.8 or 1.7 if you were doing an R&R of a rotor. I charge...
We charge 2 hours regardless. I mean, but also this is dealer. This is
Yeah, but I remember that from the dealer. I remember it was a 2-hour brake job. The shops weren't like that. The shops were less because they're trying to compete with the shop down the street. So I'm kind of the same way. I mean, I've got the tire off. I've got the brakes apart. It's 2 more bolts to take a rotor off. And sometimes not even, like on some rear brakes. Hey, can you stop? So I think my car brake jobs are 1.1 and my trucks are 1.3 per axle.
Yeah.
Because that's the going rate that people want to pay, because I put the parts on there and make a profit on those parts, and it's easier than making a profit on the
labor.
Or like to turn a rotor or something like that.
Right,
So
right.
if you look at the labor cost you're going to spend on turning a rotor versus selling a rotor, it's safer, easier, and more cost effective and warranty wise for the customer if we just do that. Because a lot of times you'll go cutting a rotor, by the time it gets straight enough, the first puddle they go through, it warps the shit out of the rotor anyway.
Well, and then it's, when you make the argument of cutting a rotor, I mean, how many technicians actually measure it? How many know how to measure it? And how many have the accessibility to see the correct measurements? You know? So, that brings me to another question with that. When you say, like, obviously, and someone calls in for a water pump, you're looking parts up in labor. Do you have set prices for more maintenance items like brakes? You said your cars are 1.1, trucks are 1.3. When someone calls and says, hey, I want to, on my F-150, my 2018 F-150, I want front brakes, do you have a set price, or do you have to go in there and see the parts every time?
No, because I can buy brake bundles from the stores. So I have pricing set up from them as brake bundles. So, like, I think a car is like $109.99 for my cost. For that's 2 rotors and a set of pads, gold pads. So all the metal pieces and everything else, that's gold. And then I think trucks are like sometimes $119. And then bigger trucks like 3500 style, they're like $129 or $139.99 for.
And that's your cost, or that's what you charge?
That's my cost. That's what I would have to buy it for. But then it splits up onto the ticket, and I think my pads are like, to the customer, I think it's $49.99 for the pads, and then, or maybe less. I don't know. It's in here somewhere. Where's it? I have it set up as what we call a canned job. So a canned job is an automatically job I build. So like a brake kit is $346 for a car, and a truck brake kit, truck and small SUV, is $380 for a brake kit. So so pads are $46.89, and rotors are $80.99 each. So I sell the whole job, and then the labor is $136 for 1.3. So the whole job is $380.25 for like your typical 1500 or a basic, SUV. And most cars and most mid-size SUVs fall into the car size. When you get above that, then it's more expensive because it's a bigger, heavier duty part and truck. So it just all depends. But I have those brake kits because, like I said, when people are calling around, how much a brake job? How much is a brake job? 99% of the cars, I could buy all those parts the same price. I can't buy all water pumps the same price. I can't buy all radiators the same price.
And that was my question. Like,
those are separate.
Parts are going to be different, yeah. But like brake job, everyone's like, oh, what's a brake job? It's 250, 280. Like, instead of sitting down every vehicle, sometimes you do have to make a custom quote. But someone calls you about, I call them maintenance items. They have a pretty much, they all cost the same as far as your cost.
Yeah, especially like if you were doing flushes, like you're talking about, like those things like that. Those are set prices. I don't do any of those, but yeah, that's how it is. So the only things that are like that are my brake jobs and my oil changes. My oil changes are $90 up to 5 quarts. That's with a 10,000 mile filter, and that's a full synthetic oil change, whether it's 520, 530, or 020. And I just use a basic full synthetic oil. I don't, no shop buys Mobil 1. No shop buys Pennzoil. They're buying typical brand full synthetic oil or synthetic blend oil. I'm using full synthetic with a 10,000 mile filter because most cars today need the 10,000 mile filter because they go 7,500 to 10,000 miles on most cars. Now, if it's a 1980 pickup truck, no, they're not getting a 10,000 mile filter. They're getting a typical filter. So it just really depends, but 90% of all the work is all set up in that same dollar amount that we have for the can jobs.
Sure. Okay. And then you do, I take it you take pretty much every payment method, cash card, kind of like that, or have you seen issues? I haven't seen issues with, other than, cash is king for many reasons. But I haven't seen issues on my side. Do you use the, what do you call them? The money services like...
Cash App?
Yeah.
Yeah, I use Cash App. That's it. I don't use PayPal. Cash App's easiest, quickest, no fees. It's a simple transaction. My credit card processor is through TechMetric. It's called 360 Payments. They do have an option with TechMetric. It's called Tech Merchant. I haven't transferred over to it yet. I may one day, only because the reporting will be really, really nice to have integrated in my software. And they do offer some financing options. Some people have good things to say about it. Some people don't. I don't know. I haven't run into a point where I need financing options for my customers because I'm looking for a customer that wants to fix their car. And most people in today's world can get a credit card easier than, Bank of America will give a credit card to a dog. It does. They don't, most of the time, Bank of America doesn't do a full check. They'll just give the card out if you put the numbers in. But I mean, I don't want to put people in debt. I don't want people to do things. So it just depends on what's going on. If it's something they need help with, then I'll direct them on certain financing options and stuff like that. But I've never used a financing option yet.
Then you become a debt collector as well,
No. So all those programs, I get paid immediately. Well, the other programs, you have to have like Klarna and Affirm. That's with the other processor that I don't use yet. I have heard people say, send it to the customer, make them go through with it. So Affirm sends it back to you and says your payment's coming, because sometimes Affirm will be like, well, we're waiting on the customer when the customer did it, and then you never get paid. So that's why I don't deal with it. I deal with credit card. I have the machine in my truck. It's hooked up to my system. It's automatically done, and everything's streamlined, so I don't have to worry about it.
Right. Okay. All right. That's good to know, because I definitely wasn't not even close to offering financial options. But okay. Man, you ran through all my questions and added more questions and answered them for me. So you kind of
usually happens when I go on a rant. Sometimes I'll start just saying stuff.
It's funny. I watch your videos and stuff, and I'm like, man, this guy's just like me. Like, he's just the way you're process a thing and you're just like ranting on things, but it's actually, your rants are actually really helpful. And I'm honestly like very appreciative for you to take the time out of your day to give me honestly answers that you've worked your ass off to get. So they definitely won't be taken lightly.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I like giving the information out because, like I said, this was difficult for us to get where. It wasn't difficult to get where we are. It took a lot of hard work and everything to get here, but
there's no secret. It's just work.
But that's what I mean. Like, so many people want it to be a secret, and it just stupid. I don't see a reason for that. We're all in this same community to do the same stuff. There's no reason why we can't uplift each other and help each other grow. There's a lot of freaking people out there that need their car fixed. There is no reason. I network with so many mobile guys in my area, or try to, and most of them ignore me. They don't want anything to do with me. They don't want to answer the phone. They don't want to talk to me. Some of them think they're, God's gift to the world, and other ones appreciate every bit. I mean, to each their own, whatever. I don't care.
Awesome. That's a great, man. I appreciate that. And I'm sure I'll have more questions. I'm still a few months out, I think, legality-wise. Still put my trailer together a little bit, but I'm sure I'll be asking questions. So, one more question. I only because I didn't see it in the video. We wash our hands like 40 times a day. I mean, I have an idea and a setup. What do you do?
So, I looked at setups like that too. I saw people using water and this and that. I was never a glove guy, ever.
Neither am I.
I'm a glove guy now, and I hate it, but I like it. I stick to one glove. They're called Raven. I get them at O'Reilly's and AutoZone. They're really good gloves. Of course, they rip at times, but then when they do, I use this white and blue and bucket of towels. I don't remember what it's called. It's in one of my old videos. If you look up one of my videos, I think it's on a Honda Cross Tour that I did an AC compressor on. But you can look them up. It's like I think they're just called scrubs or something like that. But it's a white and blue with maybe a little bit of red writing. They're these blue towels that you just wipe your hands with and scrub, and it comes right off. Really? And I don't have to worry about hand cleaner or nothing. I use those quite a lot, but because we're getting in so many people's cars and I don't have access to a sink, getting your elbows sometimes is important with those rags, and the gloves go a long way, even though I have to rip a glove off when I got to use my fingers hidden somewhere because I can't feel with the stupid glove. But
oh my goodness,
I mean, but in all, just everyday work, it's better doing that for the customer and the
I don't blame you.
But yeah, man, if you got other stuff, you got the number, send me a text. I'll answer you as soon as I can and go from there.
Absolutely, man. I greatly appreciate this. I mean, it sounds, you've probably said a lot of this, many a times already with multiple people, but hearing this the first time for me is like life-changing almost. I mean, I greatly appreciate it, man.
That's awesome, dude. Well, I hope you get there. You will. It'll take some time, but things like this is where you get excited because you're probably going to go in the house and tell your fiance all this cool stuff. Because that's what I did with my wife. When I was figuring it out, I would talk her ear off, and she'd just sit there and listen and say, go do it. You got it. Yep. Get it, So I got to give it to her on that. She let me spend money on that trailer. Yeah. But, all right, man. Yeah, just keep in touch. Let me know if you need anything.
Will do. I will. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
All right, man. I'll talk to you later.
All right. Have a good night.
See you.